Hello, everyone. This is Stuart, and I'm so glad that you're here to listen to my introduction on the NLP Master Practitioner Training Program, which you might be interested to join in this coming September. So, I'm going to cover a number of different aspects of the program. But first of all, if you have not been part of my NLP Practitioner Certification Program, but would like to learn a little bit more about where I come from, what I do, perhaps you've heard of me through the internet, perhaps you've identified certain key trainers within Singapore who could actually deliver training for you. So let me just do a very quick introduction of myself. For those of you who already know me, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining in. And if you've got further questions, feel free to find me on Facebook and drop me a message, or head down to stuarttan.com/contact and drop me a question. My name is Stuart Tan, and I have 2 master's degrees. As you notice, I've been a trainer since 1994 and spoken to over 500,000 people. I'm a leading NLP trainer with the Society of NLP, which is Dr. Richard Bandler's society, and he licenses trainers to run the licensed NLP practitioner and the licensed NLP Master Practitioner Training Program. If you are not licensed and you're just a certified NLP practitioner, you do not qualify for this program. To find out more about qualification requirements, please contact me at stuarttan.com, and we will take it from there. In the meanwhile, I've been practicing organizational psychology, coaching, and a variety of other kinds of interventions for large organizations and small ones all alike. Happen to also be highly experienced in trauma management and applied a whole range of different NLP skill sets in the area of public speaking, change management, as well as things like authorship and a whole gamut of additional things. Now, just to show you the organizations that I've trained in, these are the organizations, some of them government organizations, some of them statutory boards, and quite a number of multinational organizations as well, where I've utilized certain NLP applications in order to raise the standard of their training. This is obviously important because you want to have a trainer who's not just been sitting there and waiting for the time, but rather to be able to see someone who's been actively utilizing NLP in various aspects of his career. So this is just a little bit of assurance for those of you who are going to join in for my NLP practitioner and master practitioner certifications. So just to let you know, I've been a member of the Society of NLP and a licensed trainer of NLP since 1997. And yes, that's me in the photograph standing next to Dr. Richard Bandler. That's a really old photograph, by the way. And over the course of period of time, I've developed additional models, strategies, ideas surrounding NLP so that I can help a variety of different individuals to overcome whatever limitations that may occur in their lives, and of course to help them to elevate their status in their careers, in their leadership, and so on. So most people will approach me to, for example, come out with training programs. I don't just come out with a training program. I actually define the key outcomes effectively so that the training program will run much more smoothly. Similarly, when I'm working with individuals, I don't just work with individuals for the sake of teaching them stuff. I actually highlight key elements in their lives that can actually make a difference to them. And because you and I are completely different individuals, you might be saying to yourself, whatever you're teaching might not be relevant. I want something for myself. And that's exactly what I provide. So over the course of the many years I've been training, I've trained large groups, small groups, groups as small as 6 people, and groups as large as 5,000. And what I found is that the key difference in all of these training programs is the ability for the trainer to remain flexible to their needs. I've spoken to, groups of introverts, and I've also spoken to groups of extroverts. There's really nothing more than the good old NLP flexibility in working with these audience members. And likewise, when I work with you, I have an opportunity to demonstrate to you certain things that will help you to not just learn NLP academically, but to experience it within the training itself. So in most cases, people look at NeuroLinguistic Programming, and the standard practitioner definition is neuro is the brain, linguistics has got to do with the words, programming has got to do with your sense of habit, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's kind of good stuff for practitioners to know and to get a handle on, because it's a little bit more tangible. You can tap into the neuroscience about NLP. In my opinion, NLP is far more than that. So I'm just going to leave that red cross up there so that you can understand that I have a slightly more sophisticated uh, uh, definition of what neurolinguistic programming is, and you will do well to study it, understand it, apply it, and reap benefits just by understanding this key definition alone. Neurolinguistic programming is not broken down. It is a holistic, systemic science of modeling after excellence. So you can go out and take a look at models of excellence and learn exactly what they do. The only thing is whether or not you can put that into practice requires your amount of time in practice and requires your amount of time and diligence in applying strategies that will help you to get to where you need to go. I'm quite sure you've encountered this before. If you've studied something called the swish pattern, you know very well that the swish pattern is a very, very powerful tool. The question is, do you know how to utilize it under the right kinds of conditions? Most of them will be on hindsight, but you'll never know what kind of new habit you need to create. So you just keep creating new ones every time you meet positive role models. So in my take on neurolinguistic programming, what we want to do at the master practitioner level, not at the practitioner level. At the practitioner level, you'll be utilizing models and helping people, right? And hopefully you'll be helping yourself as well along the way. But the most important thing is at the master practitioner level, you'll be doing these four things. Number one, you'll be creating comparative experiences. So if you understand the concept of a best practice, every sports person who gets together and shares what they did to train well and effectively for a particular sport puts in a knowledge bank, a series of different practices that can be tapped on by any of the other athletes. Now, what that does is it allows the athlete to, skyrocket in their ability to expand their training repertoire, right? So they will be able to shorten the amount of time that they have spent training. They will be able to find more efficient ways so that they don't harm themselves or hurt themselves during training. And therefore, they reach a much higher level of productivity whenever they go into training. This is necessary because comparative experiences force an individual like you and me to stop thinking the way we normally think. We're going to start thinking the way other people think so that we can utilize this knowledge to experience the world slightly differently and to deal with problems that we've never been able to solve. Have you ever wondered why there's some of these things that we can't solve? It's largely because we haven't been able to put ourselves into someone else's shoes. Nowadays, as a master practitioner myself, I'll go out and I'll identify people who have done things effectively. So, for example, you might find someone who's been really powerful in, let's say, online marketing. And if you want to become, a six-figure earner on the internet, you really need to sit down with not just one, but maybe a dozen of all these different top-notch marketers in order to get to know what their internal mojo is. How do they actually do the things that they do? And once you're able to compare the differences in the experiences, you will identify some uniqueness and some sameness. And through that process, create for yourself a new series of models. However, in order for you to do this, you need to be able to activate your interviewing skills, your meta modeling skills proficiently. And if you're like a typical NLP practitioner, it's likely that you've left off your practice of language patterns for a very long time. And as a result, you need to be immersed in an environment once again to review your meta models, to be able to use your meta models at multiple different kinds of levels, including what we call multi-level modeling. Once you're able to identify these experiences, I tell you, we take our master practitioners and we put them through the process of looking for mentors, looking for role models, and then formulating new models based on their understanding of the experience. Now, is this going to be like absolute science? Of course not. But it's a study and it's a mode of studying which is satisfactory for you. If you want to go out there and model after all the chefs in the world, you like to take Gordon Ramsay and you like to take the auntie in the hawker center, by all means, compare the two, and you'll find some areas of excellence which converge. And what will be interesting is for you to start thinking about the way these models were created, or these role models behave, and then create your own models to explain how these two people came about. Now, by explaining it, what it does is that it allows you to let other people test the models. It allows you to teach other people these models, and that is very, very powerful. You've just effectively created your own intellectual property. Not just that, you own it. You can publish it, you can coach other people in it, you can write books on it, you can update your blogs, you can do your videos on them, and there is a myriad of different kinds of things that you can do with this knowledge. Primarily, generating your very own intellectual property allows you to create a brand around it. So it doesn't matter whether you are a comedian thinking about how to generate more humor within the audience. Doesn't matter whether you're a trainer or a coach who's trying to find better ways to create breakthrough change in your clients. As long as you want to be excellent in the things that you do, you have to stop thinking the way you are thinking and begin to start thinking the way experts think. And of course, expert one is very different from expert two in certain ways, largely because of the way they've been brought up, largely because of the experiences that they've had. And of course, through that process, you can identify even better practices. And that is the key in terms of the science of modeling excellence. You have to reach out, start interviewing, start getting to know more people. And of course, you don't have to do a formal interview. You can just have a conversation. That person probably wouldn't know any better, right? What's going on. So I want to highlight a certain process that I run through just to explain to you what the NLP Master Practitioner actually can do for you. Firstly, we need to put into context all the things that you're doing. Now, if you're a newscaster and you're wondering how do you stop being distracted by things around you, the lighting, the movement of the cameraman, and you're thinking, I need more focus. Within that context, there are many things that you can do to shift your focus. We know, for example, you can use anchoring. We know you can use a form of deep trance identification. You can go into a light trance so that you can block out or delete the information that's going on around you. You can certainly change your state by shifting your physiology and the way you talk to yourself. So all of these are processes. However, which one do you start with first? Do all newscasters who are excellent in what they do this? Do all newscasters have the ability to shift into flow on command, or is there something else that they do? If you don't know and you want to go into the top 5% of the world, then it's most necessary for you to start hunting around for people who are not just newscasters, but also people who've been able to do those processes, block out the audience, shift their emotional states, and so on. Now, what's important is therefore you start isolating, wait a minute, these managers seem to do really well at focus too. I want to model their focus. That athlete seems to be doing almost exactly the same thing as I do when I'm in the newsroom. I want to model that as well. Now, what eventually you do is you're context driven, but in terms of processes, exploring and comparing allows you to make finer distinctions. Through these finer distinctions, it makes you more of an expert. You see, an expert is able to explain one thing in 1,000 different ways in order to convince people, to influence people to his way of thinking, and of course, to be able to enable others to see the point, to be able to shift them in a way that is suitable for them. Because you have 1,001 different ways of explaining, it means that you can reach out to generally more people than just one person who has one way. The great Bruce Lee once said, "I fear not the man that has practiced 1,000 kicks, but rather the man who has practiced one kick 1,000 times." And the reason why this is important is because once you're able to make distinctions of that same kick in 1,000 different ways, you have become even more powerful in that one kick, because you can control yourself better, you can shift yourself better, and it's all about understanding that one singular kick. So if you want to become an expert in that area, you'll study that same area in multiple dozens of different ways so that you can uncover the apparently known layers and dive into areas which will make you stand out from the rest. Okay, and a lot of people have asked me, so how does that actually take place? Well, once you have the context and you've modeled after these people, you generate results for yourself. Through those results, you can concretize them into models. Like, for example, this entire page is a model. You can see that there's a flow, it's a cycle, and so on, and there are 5 elements in it. Whether it's exhaustive or not really depends on whom else I model, right? So if I created a model, a schematic of it, I can get other people immersed in it, and then I can take that in order to launch a concept, an idea. I can then use this idea for a multiple variety of different things in coaching, training, um, managing, leading, you name it. So it's a generic cycle where later on you go take that concept and perhaps you branch out into a different context and you apply it in a different context. For instance, I know a lot of martial artists who utilize their power of focus to attend to other people. One of my master practitioners, who's a karate black belt, says, martial arts is nothing more than taking a look at other people in a different way. I know how to avoid dangerous people, and I know how to establish a certain level of rapport, surprisingly, utilizing that same process that I was trained in my martial arts. So to a certain extent, it's no longer just about a singular context. It's about cross-contextual learning that will help you to master that trade even more. I've even had somebody who said, I'm just going to try coaching. And instead of just doing coaching, he repurposed it and used it as social interaction within his laboratory and became a really, really popular internal coach to a point of time where he built his confidence in coaching. And right now he's in a HR department in another company, which is paying him more than what he used to be when he was working in a lab. So all of these are useful ideas, and of course, important for you to make a decision to join the NLP Master Practitioner Training Program. So I typically tell my master practitioners, okay, guys, think about an area you're interested in. Go formulate some ideas around it and then test it out. You might watch role models on video. You might actually go interview them in person, or you can actually, just talk to them, chat with them on Facebook. It doesn't matter. The most important is at least to test it, gather some feedback based on your own application of the model. And then once you've got the formulation tested, you receive feedback on what needs refinement. Once you've refined it, you can then publish it and it becomes yours. Stuart doesn't lay claim to that because you created it. You utilize the models that created it. And of course, unless you're a licensed trainer like myself, you couldn't use those models to teach other people NLP. However, you do know that as a master practitioner, it paves the way for you to become a licensed NLP trainer. And of course, subsequently, you're very welcome to help contribute to a positive change in the world by being a licensed NLP trainer as well. And of course, through the process of modeling, you come up with more publications. If you're interested, I can share with you how you can take that to the next level, reading more, publishing more, reaching out to more people through social media. All of these are nothing more than brand building tools. But can that be modeled? Of course it can. And I'll give you certain sources. You can piggyback on my background experience in marketing, is that to your own benefit as well. So let's talk a little bit about what a practitioner is and what a master practitioner is and why you have to do the master practitioner as soon as you finish your practitioner program. If you've left off over a year, well, you're going to run into a little bit of fogginess that's granted. However, you must remember that until you get back into the groove of things, it's going to be very difficult for you to even recall or let alone use your practitioner tools. What I found that's most useful is those who are practitioners who immediately get into the master practitioner program typically gain and reap the benefits of immersion. And that's very useful. They habituate, they utilize things. I mean, it's almost like utilizing the swish pattern 21 times in succession. And then after a couple of months, you use that again 21 times in succession just to get some practice and to just refresh your memory. You're going to have it inside your head in no time. So the idea is this: if you're a practitioner, yes, you're a student of NLP, you are a follower of models. In other words, I've given you the model of rapport building. You know how to use that model. I've given you the eye movement model. You know how to take a look at other people's eye movements to assess their, genuinity, whether they're willing to interact with you, and so on. If you are a practitioner, you've learned about the meta model. You know how to ask certain questions. Perhaps you're not so refined and sophisticated in asking questions, but you most certainly know how to use those questions for your benefit in terms of identifying outcomes. All right. So all of these are models that have been created by the forefathers of NLP many, many years ago. And our job as practitioners is to use those models and to create change in the lives of the people around us, and of course, hopefully in our own lives as well. So with many tools, we always say that NLP is a toolkit. If you've got a whole bunch of tools, you know what kinds of tools, you've got a repertoire of tools to apply in almost any setting that you encounter. So if someone is resistant, you know how to break through. If someone is depressed, you know how to at least initiate a conversation and hopefully break through over a period of time. If you know somebody who is particularly assertive and not willing to listen to your ideas, then utilizing NLP can help you to adjust to that person, because you carry a belief in NLP that says the meaning of your communication is the response you get. And subsequently, utilizing that to shift your style in order to change the dynamic in the conversation, right? So if you're a practitioner, you should be doing these things. And I have a strong suspicion that you have not taken all the different models and mixed them together in order for more repertoire, right? It's almost as if you've got many, many instruments in an orchestra, but perhaps you only like to play the trumpet. And if you're blowing a trumpet all the time, no pun intended, then that limits you to a certain extent. You won't be able to utilize the wider range. I mean, trumpets mixed with oboes, mixed with trombones, mixed with a timpani, they tend to create a big difference in terms of the consumption of an audience or of an orchestra. So I prefer to get practitioners to integrate their learnings by being tangible about it. So you want to become a world-class chef? Great. Utilize all your practitioner models on top of the models of modeling in the Master Practitioner Training Program. And I'll cover what those things are in a short while. Whereas a master practitioner is a builder of tools. You build models, you publish those tools, and you lead in the field of NLP. Richard Bandler has always said that in order for us to gain a headway in NLP, we cannot just be teaching NLP. We have to be teaching the models that we have created. So you probably have heard that I've created many models, right? And some of you have had personal experience with me. So you know I've created many models, whether it's persuasion, whether it's accelerated learning, whether it's coaching, whether it's internet marketing, and so on and so forth, right? I've got so many different models that I've crafted, and that's making me versatile in my training industry and my consulting business. The more models I create, the more opportunities I have to be able to meet the needs of my clients, right? And if you are a master practitioner at any level, you should be able to utilize these models and craft more models within your area of expertise. If you're a manager, you should be able to utilize these for the purposes of managing other people more effectively, with more flexibility, with more repertoire. If you're a leader in an organization and you're strategically leading a team towards a specific vision, you should be utilizing the master practitioner to craft a more compelling vision that brings everybody together and achieves the corporate outcomes that you choose. If you so happen to be a teacher, you should be more versatile as a master practitioner than as a practitioner. If you're a parent, likewise, you'll be more versatile around your family members, particularly your children. So all of these help you, and hopefully it gives you an idea of how much more elevated a master practitioner status is. You are no longer just practicing. You're getting other people to practice, right? And that's one of the reasons why master practitioners, at the bare minimum, are the ones who actually help me to lead some of my programs, because they are more experienced, they have more basis of knowledge, and they have much more stories to tell as well. Now, having said that, in order for you to be an excellent master practitioner, you need to know what the Master Practitioner's Toolkit encompasses. If you want to know the actual requirements from the Society of NLP, please go down to purenlp.com and take a look at one of the articles there that talks about the requirements for master practitioners. And you'll realize that I go over and above the requirements of the Master Practitioner Training Program simply because I encourage you to literally create a model throughout the entire training. So while you're studying in parallel what your role models are doing, we are practicing and I'm teaching you some of these models at the master practitioner level. For example, advanced language pattern strategies and submodalities. Things like multiple timelines. How do you even use timelines in the first place? Some people actually learn timelines at the basic practitioner level. But I can tell you this, at the master practitioner level, it opens up a myriad of additional opportunities if you combine them with things such as meta programs, advanced submodalities, belief change, and so on. There are many, many, many applications once you're able to learn this at the master practitioner level. Even if you had learned language patterns, strategies, submodalities, and timelines at a practitioner level, you come back up to the master practitioner level with a whole range of additional distinctions. And you see, the more distinctions you make, the more of an expert you become, right? If somebody asks you a fine-tuned question, it must mean that he or she is really sophisticated in that area. For instance, maybe childcare. Okay, if this person is able to find an incisive question that is technical and targeted, you know very well that this person is an expert in his or her trade. Likewise, it's more likely that you want to answer this person from a position of expertise rather than from a position of generalities, right? Anybody can be a generalist. Few people can become an expert. And with the power of NLP, in terms of modeling tools, you can become an expert in almost anything as long as you put your time to it. We're going to be talking about embedded metaphors. I'll be sharing with you something called the Unified NLP model and how you can use that for the purposes of crafting models by modeling other people using these frameworks. Okay. I'll be talking to you about belief change and how do you do this in the context of meta programs, in the context of beliefs, values, criteria, and of course, if you need to shift beliefs subtly, all right, there are many ways to do this. And if you've always been encountering resistance due to an issue of beliefs, then you need to really understand how you can shift the ways of your thinking by having more distinctions in these models. So allow me to explain each of these areas because they're very exciting for me. I hope you can identify that in the tone of my voice. Every single element here spans a series of time. All right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It will take time for you to absorb some of these. For some of you, it's going to be exhilarating because it's so powerful that your imagination is going to start running wild. You're going to get really excited finding out how you can use these things. For a small handful of you, it might be a little bit overwhelming, but that's precisely why you want to attend my program, because you know very well that when I'm running my program, I'm open access, right? So because I'm open access, you talk to me about what it is that you need, and I contextualize it for you. I give you examples. I answer questions for you. That's the reason why your program is going to be very different than attending some other program outside. Some people say, Stuart, can't you give me an agenda? I want to see what I'm going to do during the program. Well, this is the agenda. I typically do not give you a minute-by-minute breakdown of the training agenda because those kinds of agenda are suitable in a structured, step-by-step, competency-based training program that lasts a very, very short span of time. Instead, when I break away from just competency, I want to get you immersed in it. What does that mean? It's no longer just at the level of your behaviors and your skills. It's also about your way of belief, your way of valuing things, your way of seeing how your own identity integrates with everything, as well as your vision for utilizing NLP. So I'm going to weave all of these things. I remember in one of the last master practitioner training programs that I read, someone actually came out with a model for training. And sure, I mean, some people will question, if you have no experience in training, how can you do training? Well, let me tell you, this person is actually training in Thailand right now. He's one of my certified motivational coaches up in Thailand. And he's somebody who's really good at what he does within his own local population. In fact, one of the things that I've discovered about him is that he takes modeling very seriously, and he's utilized this to generate, six figures on a consistent basis ever since he's been back to Thailand. And of course, one of the things that you can do is to create those models yourself. It might be shocking for some of you that success can come so quickly, but let's put it this way. Why is it that people who, by the age 40, they turn back on their timeline and they take a look at all the things that have transpired since their 20s and said, if only I had learned that earlier, it would have made a tremendous mark on my life. Haven't you heard people say that? And the reason why that's the case is because on hindsight, everything's 2020. But I'm telling you, projecting in front of you the next 5 to 10 years, what if I told you that there's going to be these sets of tools that could actually pave your way towards success in whichever area that you want, particularly in the domain of knowledge building, right? You and I both know that the information age is upon us, right? And people tend to listen to others who have expertise in an area. They no longer respond to authoritarian leadership. So this is important for you to master, and it's important for you to master now. Because once you come to a point where there's a proliferation of information and you cannot digest it and you cannot model after other people, your level of flexibility is going to suffer. And because that flexibility suffers, you respond slower to other people. You respond in a manner that is insufficient given the speed of change that's happening in the world today. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these models, what I'm going to share with you. So I'm sure you remember moments when you did your deep trance relaxation strategies, right? Now, in the NLP Practitioner program, this was easy peasy. You just use the Milton model, you put someone in a trance, and the person feels relaxed. If you need to, you get the person to do some forms of guided imagery utilizing the language patterns that you've got. However, at the master practitioner level, you're not going to, well, I've been to the market many times. I've walked in and out of the market before. I've never seen a market that is completely clean, right? Now, even though when I walk into the marketplace and I want to buy, fish or whatever it is, fruits, whatever it might be, the moment I walk in, I realize that there are certain patterns in the way it's structured. For example, the tap is always in a particular location. Certain stores tend to have more people at certain points of time in the day. Even in a supermarket, aisles are arranged in a particular way. Now, I want you to begin to think about what just happened, and you'll discover that somehow or other, while you're still listening to me, something just happened, because even though at a practitioner level you can put people into a trance, you're putting people into a trance utilizing standard formula. Standard formula meaning to say it must be in a formalized context. Please lie on the couch. Please sit on this chair. Please close your eyes. I'd like you to listen to the sound of my voice as you allow yourself to go deeply into trance. That is a fixed formula. However, at the master practitioner level, you're putting people into trance whether they realize it or not, such that their thoughts are organized in a particular way, such that they will put certain things that they need to tap on in a particular location inside their mind, so that when you turn that on, straight away they lapse into something called trance derivational search. And I'm not sure whether you realize what I'm doing. These are the powerful patterns that you learn at the NLP master practitioner level, crafting not just a combination of use of language patterns, but I've put people into trance whether or not they realize it. And that's a pretty powerful strategy to use. Later on, we talk about something called nested loops. Nested loops are really powerful structures as well. Many of us who have gone through the practitioner certification program will remember me telling stories about people like Milton Erickson, my stories moving forward in my training, and so on and so forth. Now, rather than me telling the stories, how about you? How about you being able to have the power of storytelling within nested loops so that you can create multiply embedded commands and metaphors? And utilize that as a network to reach out to people, craft change from the inside out, where people didn't realize that that's happening, right? Very, very powerful tools. So you notice that strategies are being affected, And remember, we'll be going through things like the toad strategies, nested toads, and things like that as well, alongside with submodalities. We're no longer just talking about closing your eyes and imagining a comparative example of whether one image is brighter than the other. That's no longer relevant at the master practitioner level. You should already have all of these. And if you don't know or you cannot remember these, I'll help you to recover them and recover these memories unconsciously. So as you're going through all of this, we will be not just learning about strategies and submodalities, we'll be utilizing submodalities as a means to model after other people, other experts, people who have a certain way of thinking. Okay? Next, let's talk a little bit about multiple timelines. You may not have thought about timelines before, but if you go back to the time when I started discussing with you what NLP was in the first place, or those of you who were not trained by me directly, think of the last time where you had a practitioner training. I'm sure that whatever it is that I've mentioned so far sounds familiar to you, doesn't it? And what I'd like you to do is imagine if you could get clarity about what you have done previously. You can fine-tune your distinctions. You'll know when to use that more effectively. You can apply them in different ways, and you can craft models moving forward so that you can create the future that you want. Right? Is that not appealing? I mean, think about what it is that you want in the future. In the future, there are many things that people like to have: freedom, happiness, sense of satisfaction, sometimes more money, a great family, and so on and so forth. Can you picture that clearly inside your mind's eye? And what if I were to tell you that through the progress of your abilities in NLP, moving in the direction by opening up your consciousness and helping you to move in the direction of your training as a master practitioner will help you to get there faster? Now, timelines are nothing more than what I just did, getting you to think about certain elements in your past, present, and future, and shifting them around so that you can see your future today, right now, and be able to enact it, to be able to build up your well-formed outcomes, and so that these timelines can be utilized powerfully. But not just that, have you ever considered what it means to do comparative timelines? And a lot of time, what we call propulsion strategies are created through the use of comparative timelines. When you look at submodalities, bright versus dark, that's a comparison, right? Example 1 versus example 2, that is a comparison. But in multiple timelines, you get a chance to compare multiple futures, multiple pasts, and multiple futures of multiple people. So that gets a little bit complex, but it's a powerful model that allows you to think about other people's thinking about, so that you can maximize the way you make decisions, maximize the way you model after other people, because then you'll be more cognizant, more aware of how these other people were thinking about their decisions too. So role modeling becomes so much easier. The ability to tap into resourcefulness becomes so much easier. And of course, as a master of NLP, you should be able to tap into more resourceful states more frequently than the average person. So modeling tools, I've mentioned a number of them. We can utilize timelines, we can utilize advanced submodalities as well, but I have very specific elements in modeling. So when you take a look at a role model, just remember, you're not just modeling everything in that one person. You're just modeling that person's capabilities in that one context. This is important because you want to be able to utilize those models for yourself. You want to be able to craft, remember, to conceptualize that framework for yourself. Okay, so a variety of tools will be utilized. One of them is known as the toad. You learn that at the practitioner level, but we're going to layer the toad into a more three-dimensional kind of strategy. So not only are we going to show you nested toads, we're also going to show you nested toads within the neurological levels. That's important because some people only model behaviors, whereas I model beliefs and values as well as a sense of identity. Those things can be modeled utilizing the toad. But if you don't know the model, then all these modeling tools will come in very handy. And of course, there's a huge amount of practice that needs to be done just to get you familiar with it. And then once you got the models, we go back to utilizing the language patterns to install it in the people around us. Okay. I've talked a little bit about the unified NLP model and embedded metaphors already. Just remember that we still operate unconsciously. It's necessary for us to have a good concept of what it is that we want to do, but it's just symbolic, right? How do we then translate it into something that's tangible? Well, we use metaphor. That's one of the reasons why storytelling is so powerful. And if you can utilize and weave in the embedded metaphor within the conversation that you have, then you become a master of that conversation. You control that conversation. You enable people to be immersed in the story that you're telling. And of course, am I going to make you the master storyteller? We're going to have elements of that. And some of you will see that for some strange reason, stories have a tremendously hypnotic effect. And you will be utilizing that to craft changes in people without them necessarily knowing. And of course, this ties in very tightly with belief change, right? If you want to change a person's beliefs, you most certainly need to help them to understand that there is a new perspective. We've done that in reframing. We talked about highest positive intention, and we talk about how these belief changes can actually reach at a higher level. Now, just in case you happen to be someone who's not a practitioner of NLP, or you don't understand some of these terms, it's because at a master practitioner level, we know we have a certain common lingo already from the practitioner level. And if you're going through this wondering what I'm talking about, well, it's okay. You don't need to know what I'm talking about. What's important is you should be learning the practitioner level stuff first. So if you have not studied anything in NLP, join me at my practitioner certification program. Head down to stuarttan.com/NLP and it'll bring you to my practitioner level training program. But for those of us who are master practitioners, what I'm saying should sound familiar to you, right? When I change beliefs, I can use submodalities, but that does sometimes appear forced. Instead, I want to be able to utilize strategies, stories, language patterns, transderivational search to create belief change. It reminds me of the time when there was an individual who came to me and said, Stuart, I don't think I can catch up with your master practitioner training program. And I told him, well, that's for me to decide, isn't it? Because I'm going to be the guy who's training you. And if I find that you're missing certain things, I will reactivate those things for you, right? Only insofar as I know that you've already had the background knowledge as a practitioner. That's important, okay? So the next thing that you may notice is this thing called the slide of mouth. In order for you to affect other people, you need to utilize the model called the slide of mouth. Developed by Robert Dilts through his modeling of Richard Bandler, you will soon come to discover that the slide of mouth isn't anywhere close to complete, right? There are many ways to do reframing, and the slide of mouth just happens to be one person's view of reframing from Bandler's point of view. So what you need to do is take a look at that model, refine it, utilize it, and you find, wow, such a huge number of different capabilities just in that model alone, right? For you to change beliefs, for you to convince people. And of course, I'm not just talking about convincing by debating. That's one model that you can explore. Other people have explored things such as humor strategies on stage. I've had someone who's explored this concept known as charm, how to be charming. I've had a participant who's modeled after street talk. You know how it is when you go with a camera crew, you go down to the street and you try to perform magic tricks. Yeah, I've got someone who's actually modeled street conversation by striking up conversations with complete strangers. All of these are possible things to study, right? But you need to curate the information. You need to go into the information, immerse yourself, and become an expert in that area by practicing it on a regular basis. So is the guy who's modeled charm going to become charming overnight? No, but he's already figured out the pathway, and he's probably going to be far ahead of you if you haven't already learned the model. So that's the question on modeling and slide of mouth as an example. The next thing, which is important, is values and criteria. So I may deem that safety is important, but what criteria show me that I'm moving towards safety or moving away from danger? So these are known as criteria. So I think who put it nicely was Tony Robbins in one of his talks on TED. He said, even a terrorist believes in world peace, right? Because unfortunately, he's doing it in the wrong way. Insofar as the Democrat, insofar as a person who believes in the concept of democracy is viewing that entire process. So just because someone agrees with you at a values level doesn't mean that they will agree to the way it is being done, right? So someone may believe in freedom, you might believe in freedom too, but one person's way towards freedom is hard work. Your idea of freedom is not to do a single thing. So all those are criteria. If you know those criteria, you'll be able to engage with people better. You'll be able to understand them and their frame of reference much, much better. And of course, read them like a book almost, right? So this is powerful stuff. Now, speaking about reading people like a book, I'm quite sure you've heard about personality testing. Or what if I told you the ultimate mother of all personality testing is known as meta-programs? In NLP, we've been studying differences in human behavior, differences in human preferences through their meta-programs. So yes, one person may be introverted or extroverted. One person might actually be convinced using visual imagery compared with auditory imagery, right? Why are these distinctions so important? And if I could show you an exhaustive list of over 30 different distinctions, wouldn't you be in a better position to read other people, persuade other people, and influence them even further? And on top of that, you know what? Different ways of viewing are important in understanding different ways of modeling. So if I can see how, let's say, Gordon Ramsay views a particular ingredient, right, in his recipe, I can activate his meta programs and think the way he thinks. I can therefore make the same kinds of decisions that he makes. And that's going to align me toward becoming a better chef or a better cook, so to speak, right? So the idea is to utilize the master's toolkit and then practice them surrounding the application that you want to create for yourself. So here's the master practitioner schedule. I'm going to be having it in September 12th to 13th, 19th to 20th, 26th to 27th. And we're going to be doing this 8:30 a.m. through to 7:30 p.m. It's the same schedule that I've always been using for master practitioner as well as practitioner certifications alike. And we'll be working through all these key models in advanced NLP. I'll be helping you to enhance your foundations of practitioner skills, because don't get me wrong, you're not going to be ignoring the practitioner skills. You will be using the practitioner skills, and I will remind you of them so many times that it feels as if you know it like the back of your hand by the time you're done with the master practitioner. I'll also be getting you to build your own NLP model and confer with me so that you can create your own toolkit as a master practitioner, right? So that you can add this to the repertoire of skills that you already have. That is important. That goes in parallel. You'll be writing a short report. It doesn't have to exceed anything more than 20 pages, but short enough for me to understand that you know the modeling process and you've actually walked through it. Okay, so I'm not interested in breadth and length. I'm more interested in applicability, ingenuity, and ways that you can use this to advance NLP further so that you can be recognized and be credible as well. So the Master Practitioner program runs with a course fee of $3,500. This is something that I'm extending to all of you. If you were to attend it by signing up on the day itself, I'm sorry that first of all, there may not be any places available. Secondly, it's going to go up to $4,000. And even then, that's a steal, okay? So at 6 days of training, which is actually worth about $5,000 in terms of my time, my effort, and the kind of international recognition, do remember you'll be certified by the largest body of NLP, the Society of NLP. I claim no credit in terms of creating NLP. It's not mine, it's Dr. Richard Bandler's, but it's so powerful that I continue to use it and I continue to thrive because of it. And I want you to thrive as well. I've got the manual and I've been developing new and interesting ways of representing the manual. This one is worth $197. Those of you who came to the practitioner training with me, you know that there's plenty of stuff that I've added inside the practitioner manual. And likewise, you're going to get a great deal of information in the Master Practitioner manual as well. We'll be going through modeling case studies. We'll be going through video case studies. We'll be testing out new models with ourselves. We'll be running innovation contests, things like that, so that you'll be much more versatile in whatever it is that you're doing as a practitioner. And of course, once you complete the Master Practitioner, it will pave the way for you to attend the NLP Coach certification, as well as the NLP Trainer program. Of course, the NLP Trainer program, if you're keen on that, you need to head up to the United States or in the UK to study under Dr. Bandler himself. Okay, and I highly recommend that you do that in due course, because that's the epitome, that's the highest position that you can take up as an NLP practitioner, right? So if you like to take on the NLP Coach certification, that's something that's on your cards. Come and join me, because I have the necessary authority to credential you as an NLP coach. So remember, if you want to expand and solidify your knowledge base, I'm just wondering, having a set of tools that allow you to create an infinite amount of knowledge through the process of modeling and rapidly acquiring information, that is going to be well worth the course fee itself. If you tap into my 21 years of modeling history, you can understand where I've come from. You can also understand how I've done my modeling by modeling my modeling. You know, I mean, it's recursive. You can turn a mentor into a repository of information by extracting the information from your mentor. And this mentor may not even know anything about NLP, but because you're pointed in your questions, you draw all of these things out much faster and much more effectively. At the practitioner level, you were doing micro modeling. Remember the TOTE modeling process? At the master practitioner level, you'll be crafting macro models, right? So you could literally teach an entire year's worth of classes if you want, by highlighting all the different distinctions. Next, we're going to talk about immersion. So there's going to be practice. We'll be doing advanced hypnosis work. We'll be doing advanced submodalities work, installation, elicitation of strategies, formulation of models, and I'll be helping you to identify what these models actually look like as well. So once you craft your own knowledge and multiply your learnings, imagine where you could be. You know, some of my master practitioners have discovered this, when there's a difference between going to a seminar. For example, I mean, some of you might actually head out to Anthony Robbins' Total Success Seminar or the National Achievers Congress. Someone who does not have NLP as a background will never ever get clearer distinctions about the meta processes that the speakers are using. So what happens is that you attend a $500 program. The average person gets less than $500 out of it, because they're going to forget a whole bunch of stuff. The average practitioner goes in and extracts probably $1,000 worth of it, probably double, because they're not just learning what is being taught, they're learning the process of thinking that the speaker actually goes through. And that is immediately maximizing, doubling your return on investment for that particular program. For a master practitioner, you are going to be able to extract even more because of the depth and the nature of the distinctions that you're making. And it's going to be pretty awesome for you to be able to identify these when people can't even see it. Just remember, perspective, the way you see things, is going to make a mark on the way you interpret information. The more ways you can see one thing, the more distinctions you can create. And that, as I said, is the mark of an expert. So once again, all you need to do at this juncture is take a look at the link at the bottom of this page. I'd like you to click on that link so that you can go to my registration page, where it will give you details of how to do your registration, what forms you need to fill up, and what the payment program is going to be like. Those people who've actually opted for PayPal, you may go for that as well. Do remember, however, in order for you to attend this program, I'm expecting payment upfront in full before you attend. All right. So go ahead, click on the link below. I read through all the necessary steps that you have to go through on the registration page. It's very straightforward. You know, if you like to make payment through bank transfer, you may go ahead and do that. If you prefer to make a payment through, for example, check payment, you can do that as well. Or you prefer to pay in cash, you can also do that at my office. So all you need to do is follow the instructions, and I look forward to having you at my Master Practitioner training. How big is it going to be? Well, I'm opting for a minimum class to start at approximately 6 or 7 people. So at this juncture, I know a lot of people have indicated to me that they do want to attend the Master Practitioner training from my past batches of practitioners. So I welcome you. If you happen to be a Master Practitioner already and interested to coach, co-facilitate this program together with me, just remember that it will require me to test your knowledge. So do drop me a message through email or through Facebook, through the secret Facebook group. You know how to get me. So all you need to do is drop me a note. And because of the total size of this group and the size of my training facility, I can only limit the total number of facilitators to a small group. All right. So not all of you volunteer to come in at once, but I would definitely appreciate if you are interested to come and join in, not only to keep your ideas fresh, but also to keep learning, keep yourself up to date with the latest in Master Practitioner knowledge, right? And of course, to help to spread the love around by sharing your own experience in modeling and so on. Okay, so in the meanwhile, I believe that there's quite a number of things for you to consider. Remember, click on that link, read the schedule. Some of you are already reading it right now. And then, you can download that page if you want. Okay, so I look forward to answering any further questions that I might have for the Master Practitioner training program, and look forward to seeing you in September. Take care and have a good day.